right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. So excited to introduce a very special guest today. I'd love to introduce you to Jeff Romansky, who is president of SecurePlan Insurance Solutions. So we have quite an informative session for you today for both employers and employees. So regardless of who you are, you'd like to stick around and tune in. But Jeff, I will turn it over to you to just give us a little bit of background on who you are, what you're all about, and ultimately why you're in the business that you're in.
Thank you very much, Kendra. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this. I'm very passionate, as you know, about insurance. It's not a industry that is always what I will say is sexy, but it's very important. And that's why I'm in it, because I've always cared about helping people, and insurance is a way I can proactively help people through very difficult times. A bit about my background, because you asked. I started in the industry back in 2006. And I worked directly for an insurance carrier. So my role was actually supporting brokers. So I was the expert at age 23. I was the expert in insurance, which is kind of crazy. And I learned very quickly, because I'm working with a lot of people in their 50s, that they don't care about how much I know, they care about how much I care. And every time they ask me a question, I would find them the answer. So I would tell my clients who are brokers, if they ask me a challenging question, like, that's a fantastic question, leave it with me, I'll get you the answer. And that's how I learned. I learned through all my clients at that time on their challenging situations that they brought to the table, and I went and found out solutions for them or their clients. So I did that until 2015, and in 2015, I decided to leave the corporate world, leave Bay Street, and start my own business called SecurePlan. So I did that, and it goes by very quickly. So January 2015 is when I started. So going in past 7 years now, and I work directly with clients. So my clients are typically professionals, executives, or business owners.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you for that background. And I do have to say, caring is definitely one of your core values. I've had the pleasure of working with you, and the caring education piece, you make sure that you're providing the best solution for your clients, which is, as somebody who really cares about their investments, or in whether that's physically, financially, emotionally, that's very important to know that someone has your back. So I just want to thank you on behalf of me and all of your clients for the work you do.
Oh, you're welcome. And I really appreciate you see the value of education, because it is so important, especially with something that's as complex as insurance, where most people are not looking into insurance and they just trust their advisor for advice. And unfortunately, like a lot of things, the advice may not be always in the client's best interest. So I always take the approach of not trying to sell anything, but educate my clients so they can make an informed decision on what's best for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because, a lot of people hear benefits, insurance, and their eyes glaze over. Like you said, it's not necessarily always the most sexy topic. And other people hear cha-ching, right? So it goes both ways. And we have so many different preconceived notions of benefits and insurance. But one thing that I particularly learned from you, and that I know you help educate your clients on, is that benefits are more of an investment than an expense. And that's a huge mindset shift for a lot of people to understand, and very helpful. So when we're looking at benefits, particularly, what should people expect, or what should the results be when they're investing their time or energy or resources into a benefits plan?
Fair enough. And it's an important aspect of an overall compensation plan. And you're right, some employers look at benefits as just as a cost. And it's really helping them have a different mindset on what are they going to get out of having those benefits. What's the value to both the employer and also the employees? Because benefits really is a way that an employer can show that they care about their employees. So what that does in return, it attracts and retains good talent. If you work for a company with no benefits and they get approached from a competitor, and that competitor offers the same or similar wage, or even a little bit less income, but they offer benefits, that employee may leave to another company because they may need or want benefits in their situation. So benefits can really help attract and retain employees, because it does help show that you care, and it helps an employee feel more secure, right? And security is important. It also increases morale and loyalty, right? If an employee feels that they're valued and they're cared about at their company, they'll be more loyal to the company they work for, and that increases and boosts their morale, and which also helps more productivity. And I think it just goes back down, is it just shows that you care about the general well-being. I think that's extremely important. I think a lot of people today are jumping ship, change jobs, change careers, And I come from a generation where, loyalty was important. My father owned a business, and I can go there now and I see people working there from when I was there at 11 years old, and they're now maybe retiring or still there. And that just shows that, and I know how much my father and his company cared about their employees, and the employees know it. So I think having a company that is looking to boost morale, increase productivity, attract and retain talent is how benefits can help them.
Definitely, definitely. And it's so important when you said, it keeps people feeling secure as well, not only financially, obviously, emotionally, physically, all of the other things that come up and why we need benefits. But I also find, and I don't know if you can relate to this too, that some employees, some people don't know how to manage their money effectively. So if you have an income coming in, you're not necessarily allocating, the dentist visits or the vision care visits. So now having someone say, hey, we've taken that off your plate and we're putting money back in your pocket rather than giving you free cash to spend it on whatever you'd like, that's very helpful from an employee standpoint.
Now, they don't teach personal finance in school very often, right? So
No.
In terms of budgeting, investing, you're right, a lot of people just don't know any better. They're never taught this. And I look at situations where what happens if an employee does get really sick, right? Like what happens? So, you get an employee that works for a company and they have something as simple as a biopsy coming up, and their biopsy is a few weeks out, and they start Googling their symptoms. They start Googling the lump that they have on their neck. And now they're getting concerned and their mind starts racing because they're scared, and that's fair. They may look into the benefits program and say, hey, what am I covered for? And imagine someone looking at the benefits program and seeing that they don't have any drug coverage, they don't have any disability, and they know that they have a health concern, so they can't go and buy individual insurance. And now they're really scared, not just about their health, but if they need to go through treatment or chemotherapy, now they're concerned about the financial well-being as well. Versus someone that actually has a company that has benefits, and then they look at their group booklets and say, okay, if I need drugs, I got unlimited drug coverage. If I need to take time off work for chemotherapy, I got my income replaced, right? I also have a second opinion service that can help me understand my diagnostics. It can also help me find the best treatment plan for my situation. There might be mental health support available within the benefits program. That employee is now going into this battle potentially in a much better mindset, because they know that financially they're going to be okay. And all they have to do is focus on their health and getting better and getting through what they're going through. So again, that's why benefits are very important to employees, because just like personal finance, most employees are not going to go out and buy their own insurance if they don't have the benefits in place already.
Definitely, definitely. And what an example that I hope none of us ever have to find ourselves in, but good to know, because benefits are meant to be, to cover that worst case scenario. And so we get benefits with the worst case scenario in mind, but obviously benefits help us with the smaller things and the maintenance. So from the conversations that you've had and just knowing what you know about all of these benefits packages, what do you think are the most important aspects of a benefit program?
Yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of times what may be important to the employees today isn't really the most important parts of the benefits program. So an employee may have more perceived value on things like vision, right? Or massages or chiropractor, because that's the stuff they need today for just their general maintenance, general well-being. However, they may not always see the importance of things like disability insurance or having unlimited drug coverage. And those are the things that can be financially catastrophic. So if someone does have cancer and they need a lot of medication, or they need to take a year off work, right? If there's no income coming in, what happens? Where's that money going to come from? I learned very quickly, money does not grow on trees. So employer, to me, the most important parts of an insurance benefits program is protecting the catastrophic situations. I always tell my clients, you should insure what you cannot replace. If I need to go to the dentist and spend $1,000, it might sting, but it's not going to bankrupt me. But if I have chemotherapy and I need to spend $100,000 on drugs, in addition to no longer having a paycheck, that could bankrupt me. So I really think that companies should take the time to kind of consider the catastrophic financial situations of a real sickness like cancer and how that impacts somebody, and put a focus on things like disability insurance. And unfortunately, not all plans have disability. And a lot of times clients come to me saying, I have disability through my group benefits. I get a copy of the benefits program, and we learn together that they don't actually have it. So they're just hoping they had it.
Right. And so that's reading the fine print.
Correct. And just understand the benefits. And I think most people have benefits. They put the package in their filing cabinet and they don't pull it out until something happens. And by then it's too late, right? So it's very important for an employee to understand their coverage. And the company has the opportunity to make changes to the benefits, but at the end of the day, the employee does not. They have the benefits the employer provides. So as an employee, if they're healthy, they can go buy their own plan to supplement benefits. But again, it's important for the employee to know what actually they have in the benefits plan. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Empower through education, right? Make sure that they're educated on what they have, and then have a discussion from there if it doesn't suit their needs. But I love that you pointed that out, because everybody says, oh, it won't happen to me. It doesn't matter. I'm covered for this, that, or the other thing. And when it does happen, that's when you want to be prepared, like having an umbrella on a rainy day.
Exactly. And life does happen, right? Like I've been doing insurance for a long time, and I have many clients that had a claim, right? Today, in today's day and age, we see mental health situations in the healthcare sector. We see clients that have cancer at younger ages. Life happens, and life happens to really good people. Now, think about the situation where, someone, and I'm going to use cancer because to me, cancer is very real. It's prevalent. I have friends that have had cancer recently. And it's tough because they're younger, and it's like they live a healthy and active lifestyle, and it still happened to them. But the nice thing is, a lot of times they survive. Might be a rough year or two, might be a rough battle, but a lot of times they survive and they'll go back to work. Now, imagine that conversation when they're back to work. They're around the water cooler, they're talking to friends. And imagine if the company had great benefits where that employee says, when I needed to take time off work, my income is replaced, and I received a $25,000 critical illness claim. So I was able to use that money for my spouse to take time off work to be there for me. I had a second opinion that helped me find out the best treatment plan for my situation. That's a story that their peers are going to remember, right? And that really shows that the company cared, because it's a company that provides those benefits to that employee.
Absolutely. Well, even just having the opportunity to come back to the same water cooler, right? And that loyalty piece that you were talking about at the beginning, when you have that employee's loyalty, then you take care of your people and you nurture them. And that's incredibly important. And, it's, again, worst case scenario, you hope that employees don't have to use their benefits, but if they do, you like to be the person to help support them. If they're, there for you, you support them as well.
Yeah, exactly. I said, never like to see a claim come in, but it does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, we've talked a lot about the reactionary things. What happens if this happens, then how do we fix it, or what's available to us? But you and I have spoken at length about certain wellness programs and ways that employers can get ahead of the curve and help their employees be more active or proactive in taking care of their health. So what are some of those pieces that employers can put in place for their employees to be more proactive?
It's a great question. And this is actually an area where the perceived value is very high, because if there's benefits to the employee to help them be more proactive with their health today, that's something the employee is going to value today because they're going to use it, right? Unlike a disability policy, we hope and we know that not all employees are going to actually benefit from that. The few that do, it's great that they had it, but many employees are never going to actually claim on the disability insurance because they're not going to get sick and not able to work. So I will talk a bit about the wellness benefits and having a wellness program integrated into a benefits plan. And this can be in addition to a current plan or a supplement to an existing plan. But an employee wellness program is really designed to create a healthy workplace. So it can be used to encourage their employees to be more physically active outside the office, which can reduce stress both in the office and at home. An employer looking to improve the overall health and well-being of their employees can really help their employees or influence their employees live in a healthier lifestyle by implementing a wellness program.
Great. Okay, awesome. So not necessarily the be all end all, but in addition to just really, really encourage, and I like that you said influence their employees to get outside and be active as well. So pushing employees, again, we live in a society, especially working from home over the past couple of years, where work and life have kind of become intertwined. So wherever employers can try to influence their employees to get outside and be more active, to seek, whether that's mental health, physical health assistance, then that's the ultimate goal. And that's incredible. A lot of people need that push too.
And I know we've talked about this in the past. When you exercise, you feel better, right?
Yeah.
If you wake up and go on the treadmill for half an hour, even 20 minutes, you feel better, right? And you have for me, I have a clearer mind. So with exercise and with taking care of myself, and you have to take care of yourself first, that creates you being a better person. And that will lead into the business, right? So you're gonna have a more positive workplace, you're gonna have more motivated employees, you're gonna have a culture where the employees care about their business and their customers, all because they know the company cares about them and trying to help influence them to live a healthier and active lifestyle. And again, a wellness program is essentially just a set of funds that the employee can use towards certain wellness items. And a company can really create a plan, however they want to create it, to help them pay for things like gym memberships or nutrition or vitamins or even horseback running, right? So a company can really decide how they want to promote wellness to their staff and to their employees. And the nice thing is that the employees get a direct benefit because they can use it from day one, and they're going to benefit from it from day one.
Right, right. Amazing. Okay, so to reiterate, the employer gets to allocate the funds, right? So they get to choose the set amount, which is key, I think, in this. So knowing how much each employee has, and then what are the other benefits to the employer when it comes to setting up this wellness plan, aside from having a happy, healthy team, which is
For sure. I mean, a lot of times the discussion might be, do I just pay my employee a higher salary or do I provide them a wellness benefit, right? So for an example, an employer might say, we're thinking about offering $2,000 a year towards wellness, right? Or we just give them a $2,000 raise. Well, me and you both know if you give someone a $2,000 raise, they may not use that money towards wellness, right? They could be using it on beer instead, right?
Yeah.
Or gambling. That's counterproductive. But when you give them a $2,000 account that they can use towards wellness, and they can specify what is considered wellness in that account, they know if the employee wants to use that money, they got to go and get that gym membership, or they got to go and buy that gym equipment, or they need to go and buy that fitness tracker or get that personal trainer. So again, it's a way that a company can say, hey, we believe in wellness, we believe in living a healthy lifestyle, and we're going to give you money that we use towards it. But you can't use that money for other things. So it's going to force the employee to use it. And again, if you're an employee, why wouldn't you try to use that money towards wellness, right? It's free money for you as an employee.
Yeah, and gym memberships are not cheap. So, taking care of yourself isn't always the most accessible sometimes. So to have that sum allocated already, like we were talking about, putting money back in people's pockets,
Yeah.
In certain ways to help them manage it is incredibly helpful. And I mean, you've mentioned gym memberships, nutrition. I know that there are obviously our mental health services, vitamins. I did hear that you can use this wellness benefits and extend it to your pets as well. And in a generation where people are having kids later, or maybe they're just opting for dogs over kids.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit more about that, because that's really fascinating.
For sure. And we're animal lovers, right? Like in our household, we have 4 animals, right? So we know the cost of animals. We love our animals. They're part of our household. And I look at, for an example, I have a company that's in the pet industry. And obviously, as a company in the pet industry, most of their employees are animal lovers. So what the company decided to do is extend benefits to their pets. So they said, hey, let's give each employee a pot of money that can be used towards vet fees, pet insurance, and even pet daycare. And that way, their employees feel very valued because the company is actually valuing their fur babies, right? By offering them coverage just for their wellness benefits are just for their animals. They're just being used for pet insurance, if it's Trupanion, and their vet fees and pet daycare, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Especially the pet insurance piece. I really like that. I know it was a big shock for me when I became a pet owner years ago with my dog, thinking, oh, I guess that makes sense. I have to get pet insurance, but that's another fee that I wasn't expecting. And what does that entail? And, in adopting a pet too, you don't normally think about these things. But when they eat a sock or they have an upset stomach or whatever happens, and like you said earlier, life happens, to make sure that your fur babies who are part of your family are covered is incredibly helpful. And I know I'm thinking in my mind of so many people that I know would love to have pet insurance, just even for that monthly recurring fee, to know that they're covered if something does happen to their pets and they get into mischief.
And going back to, like, let's just say a company decides to give their employees $1,000 towards their pets. right? Or $1,000 raise. If you give someone $1,000 raise, they may not take that money and go and buy pet insurance. But if the only way you can access that money is to buy the pet insurance, guess what? That employee is going to buy pet insurance, because why wouldn't you? And now if something happens to their animal, they can have that security and that good feeling of saying, hey, I don't need to worry about the cost of treatment. I know we benefit from pet insurance myself with one of our dogs that went into cardiac arrest. And because we had insurance, we brought him to the animal hospital at 3 a.m. We did every single test you can imagine, and the bill was in $1,000, but not once did I worry about the cost of the bill, because I knew the insurance was going to cover it, and it did. But again, it goes back to, if you have the wellness account, that you can allocate those dollars towards that type of coverage or your pets, versus a raise. If you give someone a raise, they may not be disciplined enough, or just think, oh, my pet would never get sick, and not buy that pet insurance, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bucket of money that out of sight, out of mind. And if you need it, it's there, which is that's very reassuring to know, and also helpful for the management of money across the board.
Exactly. And in this case, the owner of the business really believes in pet insurance. So they're like, we want you guys to have pet insurance, right? And it's in their way, they're kind of influence the employees to do so, because they're saying, we're going to pay it, but here's the money, and you can only use it towards your animal. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my kind of business owner, hopefully if it's a in-person working environment too, they allow the pets to come in, but that's a different kind of story and conversation. So with that being said, and, people traveling for work, and the commute has been lessened for most people, travel has been kind of cut back, but I think we're starting to come back to people traveling a lot more. There's a lot more undue stress on those people who are traveling, because we all know Pearson, specifically here in the GTA, hasn't had the best reputation as of late. So much stress on these travelers and these folks who need to get somewhere quickly and perhaps travel often. So is there something that this wellness program can help employers set those employees up for success with when it comes to traveling and long hours and things of that nature?
For sure. And there's certain industries and certain types of jobs that just are very high demanding, right? There, as an employee, it's expected that you're working long days, long hours during certain projects, because there's timelines. And if you're a high level executive, or if you're a high level management employee, again, you are working a lot, and you may need to travel a lot, which can be very stressful, right? Extremely stressful. So in those types of situations, a company who cares about their employees, they say, listen, we understand we have high expectations of you as an employee, because we need you and we value you. But we know that can be sometimes stressful for your home life. So they can put a plan in place that says, you know what, we're going to pay for things like your child daycare, your cleaning services for your house. Maybe we'll get to be a life coach to help you manage the stress of dealing with family and a job. Maybe we'll cover your legal fees or financial advisor fees. That way you can hire someone to manage the money for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. These are all things that a company can do and restrict just to those segments of a wellness program, because to that employer, maybe the gym membership or the golfing or the Fitbit isn't the priority to them. Their priority is, let's make their home life as comfortable as possible. So if we can reduce the stress out of the house for their spouse, if their spouse is at home, or if the spouse is working, maybe they cover the cost of a nanny, having a wellness program to cover those costs can reduce the stress greatly and allow the person to be more focused on the job when they're on the road. So that's another example of a client we have that has benefits like this.
Fantastic. Okay. I mean, it's so fascinating, because I'm sure many people's minds are blown here that employees and employers can customize these pieces. And you think, you normally think benefits, it comes in a folder, here's what I have, take it or leave it. But being able to customize it to suit lifestyle and what have you is a huge shift towards the progressive workforce that we're starting to see now. One additional question, so let's say we're a workforce of 10, a team of 10, and each person requires different things. Are you able to allocate different buckets to different people, or is it pretty standardized across the board?
It's a good question. You can allocate different buckets to a different class, right? So a company that might have an executive team that has those high expectations, they may offer them a lot more dollars. They may say, here's $10,000 a year to use towards all those things like a life coach, child daycare, cleaning services. Mm-hmm. And then for the rest of their employees, the office staff, they give them $1,500 a year to use towards the gym memberships and live in a more healthier and active lifestyle. So you can determine within the class of employees on how much they will receive and how they can spend that money. But within the same class, you have to you can't discriminate against others in the same class. But what you can do is they can choose how they want to spend the money. So if they have $10,000 in that situation, one person can decide to put 10K towards their life coach and financial advisor. The other person may choose to put $10,000 towards daycare services and cleaning services. So the pot of money can be divided up to the, I guess, whatever the employer wants to offer. You're not going to usually restrict. You can only use so much in each bucket. It's here's much you can use, and here's what we can allow you to use it for. And the employee chooses how they want to divide that money up, or as needed, they can allocate the money towards those costs.
Awesome. That's super empowering and gives autonomy to the employee to choose what works for them and what means the most to them rather than having someone else dictate that. So I really like that piece that, here's as much as you were prepared to give you, and then here's how you choose to use it. And like you said, they could use it all in one go, or they could choose to kind of segment it up a little bit.
I mean, one of my very first clients was a dentist who actually came to me saying, I want a wellness program for my staff because there's a cost of scrubs and the cost of shoes, and I want to pay for that for them, right? So he set up a wellness program that allowed his staff to go and buy the clothing and shoes required for the job, right? Which is pretty cool. And that was several years ago. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, as a company, you want to provide this to your employees because there's a cost to having good shoes and you're on your feet all day. And again, that is a company that really cares about their employees, right? And they're going above and beyond.
Absolutely. I bet their retention rates are through the roof.
For sure.
Good. Very good. That's what we like to hear. Awesome. So I think the question that's probably on everybody's minds, as much as nobody wants to admit it, that there are costs associated with programs such as a wellness program. We've talked about, how much you can provide, what buckets you can kind of put all the money in, but for the employer, the ones who are providing this service, what does that look like from their side?
Yeah, great question. So for the employer who's offering the wellness program to their employees, it really is customizable, and they can really choose how much they want to offer. So they can say, I want to provide $500 to my employees, right? So each employee gets $500. They can say $5,000 per employee. So, and they can break up different employee classes. They can have office staff, they can have sales staff, they can have executive team, and they can offer different classes, different amounts of coverage, because some classes may have more value to the company than others. Unfortunately, that's just the way it works. So as a company, they can decide their budget. They can say, we have X amount of dollars a year to put towards a wellness program, and this is how we want to roll it out. And they can choose a budget. The cost of the plan itself, so the cost to use the software and use the plan itself, is about 10%. So every time there's a claim. So I'll go back for a second. If you provide an employee $1,000 of wellness account, and that employee uses nothing, there's no cost to the employer, right? So if you provide an employee $1,000 and that employee doesn't use a wellness program, they don't want to benefit from it, the employer keeps $1,000 for themselves, right? And there's zero cost. Now, if that employee decides to utilize a full $1,000, and we hope most employees do utilize a full $1,000, we want them to live a healthy, happy lifestyle. There's a 10% admin fee. So their cost to the employer is obviously the $1,000 that they provide to the employee, and then they pay a 10% admin fee. So in that case, $100. That will be you, and plus HST, so $113 in Ontario, and that will be used. That's a cost for the company to have that program.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. And it's that seems like a much lower cost, and if it's utilized, then that fee comes out of the employer's pocket, which is wonderful that it's not just automatically charged.
Exactly. And a lot of times what we look at is it's almost, do we pay them a higher salary? Do we give them a raise? If we give a raise, how much a raise? Or do we allocate some of that raise towards a wellness account? So end of the day, to the employee, if they use the wellness account, they're still getting taxed on that. So if they spend $1,000, that $1,000 is still added as taxable income at the end of the day. So the employee is being taxed on that. But to the employer, they're just influencing how they can spend that money. It's almost being kind of helping an employee spend money wisely, right? In areas that are important to the culture of that organization. So that's also been kind of keep in consideration as well.
Absolutely, especially as you reach and approach that income threshold where your tax rate jumps much higher. Then how are you looking to offset those costs? And I think this is an excellent way to be able to do so. So you're not getting all that money taken away.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so now everybody on this watching this says this is fantastic. I want to learn more. They call you up. They say, Jeff, what do we do? How do we sign up as employers? Or maybe as an employee who says, I want to learn more. And how do I get buy-in from my employer? How do I get them on board?
Yeah.
What advice can you give them?
It's a great question. So, I mean, as an employer, it typically you have to have a game plan, right? So, what am I trying to achieve by having a wellness program? Is it getting my employees being more active at home? Is it helping to reduce stress at home? What am I trying to do with this wellness program? And how much we want to invest into this program itself? And we can help the employer understand the different buckets and different plan designs that some companies in similar situations are going to offer to their employees. So the nice thing with this is really easy to set up. It's technology in today's day and age is way more advanced than it was even 20 years ago. So everything now is on apps. So long story short, a company decides to move forward. They want to give each employee $1,000 in certain buckets. It's very easy to enroll an employee. It's a one-page process that we ask for some basic information to upload the employee into the system. And then the employee actually gets an application on the phone and they can see how much they have in a wellness account. And the employee will go out and they'll spend, let's say $300, and they get reimbursed at $300 right away within 1 to 3 days from that account. So I would always say from an employer standpoint, the best thing you do is reach out to your broker, or if you need a broker or looking for a second opinion, reach out to myself here at SecurePlan, and we can kind of help you design a plan that makes sense for you and for your employees, just by asking you good questions. Understand your situation, understand what you're trying to achieve, understand what you're hoping to provide to your employees, and then help you customize a plan that's a good fit for your organization.
Fantastic, fantastic. And for our employees out there too, take a look at your monthly budget, right? Where do you allocate most of your spending? And I think that would be helpful to then be able to come to you and say, all of our spending goes to massages, mental health services, whatever that looks like. And then you have a more solid argument to, or I should say, bargaining chip to be able to come to the table with your, not argument, we're being collaborative here, to your employer. And maybe that is not getting that $1,000 raise, but putting that into that bucket. So I love that solution that you've provided people. And I encourage everybody watching here to get in touch with Jeff, call, at least for even from the education standpoint, to learn more and understand more, and then come up with a customizable solution for yourself and your employees.
And there's no cost to education, right? So I provide education for free. As brokers, we get paid directly by the carriers if they decide to do business. So all of our consultations, all of our advice does come at no charge, right? And it is a second opinion. There's never an obligation. So our job is just to educate and help them make an informed decision, and typically go through that process. If they're looking at insurance and going through the process and decide to move forward, that's how we make our living. But we're here to help, and that's what we do. Yeah.
Amazing. Jeff, thank you so much for providing so much information, so much knowledge. And we will definitely have to do a part 2, because I know that there's a lot more that we could have covered. But hopefully this gives people tidbits to walk away from. They're leaving more informed, more educated. And I just want to thank you for your time today and in the past, and just, sharing all of your expertise with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to help others understand their options. So thank you very much, Kendra. This was a blast.